Okay. Minutes 1:45, and y'all missed it earlier. James was coming via the evil black tunnel, and now he's in the Wellovision. Hopefully we have no glitches, no sign, no other stuff. I'm not holding out hope, but I hope. This is getting insane. For those of you who are complaining about the audio, I'm with you, because I'm looking here at the thing that's recording the stuff, and it's telling me everything's fine. And as of late, when I go to do post-production and do like minor tweaks in audio, I find whole chunks of video that are just, I'm like, there's nothing I can do to salvage that.
And so now somebody has to grab that section of the video and turn it into a loop.
Why
don't you record the audio and video separately?
I'm in the process.
The audio coming from Holst or whatever, and then record the video differently.
I'm in the process of trying. If I need to do to change things to do that. I want to fix the sound the video and stuff like I want, like when we get a bunch of people like we had on PC this week, because right now, I mean, 2 people get screaming, everybody else is just big giant voices in the sky, which isn't the ideal setup, but if the audio was good quality, that would at least be tolerable and the immediate future. It may be like 2-3 months from now. I've got to go buy a mixing board we can pipe all this in and normalize it, and yeah, probably make it just a whole separate audio track. And if I do that, I can actually put everybody on their own audio feed, and then I can, you know, fix anything in post-production that got screwed up. But it's just not set up that way right now. It's on the list. It's so on the list. I swear. Along with the other 50 billion things I got to write. So is putting up the site. So is getting a bunch of other things done. It's like, it's all on the list. It's like, I am trying to write a site. That's what me and Jordan were talking about. I'm coming across this insane error with jQuery where I have to write OR and statements into the if else test to get all the navigation and everything to work right and act like a cloud-based app, but for some reason jQuery is not wanting to cooperate. Okay, what story do we want to start with?
Let's do from the top.
From the top? Okay. Well, what do we think about that price for the Xoom Wi-Fi only?
I haven't actually seen it come from Sam's, but I saw something on Slick Deals about it that Sam's might have it for that price. It's sort of a rumor at this point, but a lot of other systems are showing up at $5.99. I know Staples, Costco, and a couple of other places, Amazon, they all have it listed at $5.99. If Sam's Club gets it at $5.39, that would be pretty awesome. I would guess that would probably be a members only price, so it's 10% more if you are not a member, which would put it right at about $5.99.
Yeah, but I are a member,
Exactly.
so I don't care.
Well, my wife is a member.
Well, yeah, well, it's. I mean, it'd be a good price, and it would be in line actually, though, because that you would expect it to be like then $5.99 at the Walmart, and that's the Sam's price. Hopefully, your Sam's would choose to stock it, because that's the one big problem with Sam's. If you're in a town where primarily Walmart is your supplier, Sam's, interestingly enough, chooses not to stock many things they usually would. It's kind of annoying. I mean,
of course, the funny thing about this is, though, the Wi-Fi version only is going to be 500, 600-ish. I mean, you're going to find deals eventually.
Yeah.
But the 3G, 4G version is going to be $200 more. Usually, don't they subsidize that down and make it next to nothing?
See, that's the thing right there, in a nutshell. They're not subsidizing.
They make it sound like they are subsidizing it. That's the funny thing.
And the thing here is, we don't know who's doing this. Is this Motorola or is it Verizon?
Sorry to interrupt. That did remind me. I think Verizon is subsidizing it now. It is $5.99 if you do your contract.
No, they are doing that. But we I mean, it based on what the thing costs to make, there's clearly room to add a $300 or $400 subsidy. As opposed to a $200 one, and since you're signing a contract with a $300 some odd dollar, what is it, $349 or something like that? I forget what it is.
I think with most of them, it's a minimum of like a $20 to $30 per month for 2 years.
Oh no!
Wait. This is month to month. Never mind. $30.
Yeah, it's month to month, and you got to cancel. Here's the thing: if you sign that contract to get the subsidy, you get a credit per month, but you get to the last day of the contract and you still owe over $100 in cancellation fee. So
maybe part of this is Motorola seeing that now that they kind of are in the Android market and they have their place, they're trying to finally make money without giving a big subsidy like they have for their previous phones.
No, I think that's what they're doing.
The biggest thing about it is that there aren't really any competitors in the market. The iPad just came out, and it's slightly different market. I mean, they are targeting the same type of people, but you've got people that are going to go for Apple and people that are going to look for other, and other is going to fall into either the touchpad that's coming or Android, and the current Android top of the heap is Motorola.
Right. Well, but see, one of the things that there's a couple of things here that I think I do think this is Motorola doing this, not Verizon. I'm going to tend to agree with that. I think Verizon is subsidizing as much as they can. My guess is the price they're selling it to is the price they're getting it from Motorola. And instead of trying to work out some kind of share agreement between them, Motorola's just saying, and it's a shame that that's the case because, when it comes down to buying an Android phone on Verizon, right now, pretty much everybody buys one of the Droids. I mean, the other ones do sell, but the Droid's definitely the leader. And part of the reason for that is because Motorola worked out with Verizon on to figure out a way to subsidize that original Droid, to be a loss leader, to go, this is the established brand. And if Motorola would do that again with the tablets, they would literally own the tablets, at least over there on Verizon, like they do the smartphones. It's like next cycle of Moore's Law, incremental improvement, and way less to make and same price. And, basically you now own the market. They've proven that business model works well, so has several other people. I mean, it's working very well for them with the Droid. It's kind of a shame they're not willing to do it with the Xoom.
I'm hoping by the time, I think we've said this a few times before, I hope by the time the other 10-inch tablets start coming out, specifically the Galaxy Tab, that because there's competition, they'll all have to drop in price.
Well, no, honestly, how I'm looking at the pricing for the Xoom right now is it has nowhere to go but down, and I say that for the simple reason. Right now, it's being very much priced like the iPhone was when it was first launched.
Exactly.
And, it was really funny. A few people bit, but, they're like, that's stupid. I'm not spending that much money. And, and then they stepped down a little bit more, and, then a little bit more, and then they released
the original iPhone like $600.
Yeah.
And then they dropped it to $5 and then $4.
Well, no, and Apple was losing money on every single one of those. It's like,
and it finally went to $199, and then everyone.
Yeah. When it hit that $200 sweet spot, the reality is when you're getting into a mobile device, $200 is like this sweet spot where it's some money, but it's an impulse buy. Bling bling. Bling bling! It's like, okay, 200, 2 C-notes, okay, yeah. Oh crap, I've just signed a 2-year contract. Oh yeah. It's like, but they realize that after the fact, and then they're too ashamed to go, well, I know I'm in my 30-day grace period, but I don't want to act like a cheapskate and get myself out of it, It's, okay, I'll stick with it for 2 years. And then, 3 months later, I really wish I hadn't done that, but now I'm stuck. Might as well stick it out. So, well, now I'm halfway through. That's the price at which you get them to do that. And then when you figure out how to get it to the 200, you know, this year's model, either for clearing out back stock or because of a cycle of Moore's Law going by, becomes the $49 to $99 model. You know,
the really funny thing, whenever I got the original iPhone, the old one, a long time ago, and when I got it, it was $400. I hate to even admit that I paid that, but I think we paid it for me and my wife. Yeah, ridiculous. But we compared the pricing, and the cheapest smartphone you could get from AT&T was $100 with $40 per month data plan, and you had to have the data plan.
Right.
The iPhone was $400 with a $20 a month data plan. Over the course of 2 years, the iPhone was actually cheaper.
Well, no, but see, that's the thing. I kind of wish they were going back to that model. Here's
the data plans are all...
Well, yeah, no, well, it's not just that. What I would love is like 2 tiers of data plans from the mobile companies. You know, the idea of that, well, if you largely buy the device unsubsidized, we're basically going to charge you the percent of the data plan plus a little bit more that is actually our profit margin not making up for the subsidy. And if you're going to buy ultra subsidized, where we have to get all that money back over you over the course of the contract, you're going to have the, oh dear God, termination fee, and the data plan's going to cost, you know, 50 to 70% more to deal with all of that stuff, with the possible collection fees and everything else. And then basically, it's my choice. Do I want to give you all the money now, and then, you know, have my commitment be less, or do I want to, you know, save now and spend a lot more later? That's, and then the frugal shoppers will do one. And I guarantee you, most people who, you know, given the way our society works, is like, well, I can't afford it, but I want it now. We'll pay for it forever. Well, if you have any doubt that that model works, I mean, look at all the lease to not own places. I mean, oh, I can buy the TV for $200, or I can rent it for $20 a week. It's like,
and for a lot of people, $20 a week is affordable, and a bunch of money up front is something they'll never have.
Yeah, but you pay for that thing 5 times over during the year. I've never understood those prices.
I completely understand that.
But the kind of people that, you know, buy that do buy it like that is, you know, the kind of people that won't have that allotted sum of money just saved up ready to be spent, because it'll already be spent, so they'll never have that much money saved up ready to buy something for, you know.
And see, that's the thing. There are people who are making small fortunes, you know, taking, you know, basically saying, you know, these people will never save. They could, but they won't. So, you know, they can just give all their money to me. You know, I'll let them dispose of it to me. That's their whole business model. And, you know, I'm kind of surprised to see this telecoms just rejecting this business model, because it works very well. There's one hell of a profit margin in it. I'm like, you know, let those of us with some common sense, you know, not get ripped off by you, and, you know, make your money off of the people with poor impulse control. There's plenty of it. So, I don't know. Hopefully it gets cheaper. I am noticing finally some people, there is the sticker shock of the Xoom is starting to wear off. And that, you know, it's, you know, people are like, oh, well, you know, instead of comparing it to the 16 gig iPad and the single core tabs, okay, let's compare it to the dual core iPad and look at 32 versus 30. Alright, it's expensive, but if you actually do the math, I guess it's kind of cheaper, so maybe it's not so sucky in price. But that's not, but, you know, like what we were just talking about, that's not the perception to people, because they have to have that big...
It's not an Apple product. So
well, it's not just that. It's the difference between poor impulse control, here's a few $100, now let me pay you thousands over the next few years, versus, okay, here's this chunk of money now. And it's like the perception for the initial buy is very, very different. And even if it is,
as far as buying with contracts, I mean, if it may be, you know, an impulse buy, but even a person who's not buying on impulse, if they know they're going to stick with the company for 2 years, then you do save money that way.
Oh, you save some, but you sell more if you're taking advantage of if you're making them more impulse buys. I would think Verizon would make a lot more money if they were pricing it more for impulse buys than actual commitment. Because when people start to think about the commitment, they start to think about the commitment. You know.
Well, maybe Verizon wants to, like you said, but it's Motorola that's not letting them.
Yeah. Well,
Verizon actually does tend to love impulse buy because they have a lot of buy one get one frees, subsidies, all with contracts. So I don't think that it's Verizon that's not letting this be.
Oh yeah, I do think it's more Motorola than Verizon, and Verizon's probably not willing to eat the full 200 unit entirely on their own. My guess is they'd more than be willing to share the revenue, but they're not willing to fully eat it up front. Obvious reasons to do that. Actually, while we're on about Verizon, let's skip around a little bit. Skipping down to the... Ooh, did I put this? Oh, crap, I didn't put it in here. Hold on.
Speaking of...
Yeah, because Verizon is actually... they've said they're going to kill unlimited data.
I did hear that somewhere.
Yeah, they're going to be killing...
They said people will be grandfathered in.
Well, no, here's the thing. What they're literally saying... Oh, now I have no idea where... Oh, yeah. The Thunderbolt that's fixing to come out is going to have an unlimited LTE plan. But they are not... Basically, they are acknowledging by the end of the year we will not be offering any unmetered plans. You know, this was never our plan. You know, we have no intention of having unmetered data. We're going to be moving entirely to plans like you're buying for the Xoom, which, you know, basically, honestly, if you're wanting one of these devices, and if you're thinking you're going to buy a tablet this year, and you're going to be going with Verizon, you're going to be buying something like the Xoom when its price drops or something like that, and you think you're going to be on Verizon, I would or you're okay with at least Verizon in part being your thing, I would seriously think about buying the Thunderbolt, because that may be your only chance to get a grandfathered in plan that will have unmetered data. And of course, you know, the Thunderbolt isn't, and it can tether to your other devices. It can be your unmetered link for all your other devices. Y'all think I'm jumping the gun a little bit? I mean, and we saw this when everybody else started doing this. I think it's like it's going to be a few weeks, maybe a month, and then suddenly, oh well, no, it's not. That plan doesn't exist anymore.
I'd say that it's definitely a safe bet, but I mean, to be honest, I don't know. I hate to even say that, but how many people are using more than a few gigs a month?
Well, okay, you need to think about that in two ways. Yeah, I told you what Tiny's using. Right now, he's averaging about 15 to 18 a month because he's just actually using his data.
15 to 18 gigs a month on a phone.
Mm-hmm. But he's doing things I see a lot more people doing going forward. Like
streaming stuff.
Yeah, he's watching YouTube. He's watching streaming networks. He's listening to Pandora or oh god, I can't remember what it's called. I've started listening to it as of late. Django. Because Django is popular music for free. Just and you can make your own playlists and everything. And more people are going to be doing these things. When he has a Netflix account, so when he'll be using Netflix on that on the go, and he tethers. He tethers all the time. If he's out somewhere, he just pushes the button on his phone and it uses his computer. This is what I see the average atypical link device user's behaviors being, especially if things like these tablets become more predominant over the next 5 years, which means these grandfathered in, unmetered, use as much data as you want plans are going to be worth their weight 10 times over in gold for the people who have them and can transfer them from device to device to device. They will save them thousands of dollars a year.
What I don't see is that, you know, it's you know, based on, you know, Moore's law and all that, it still should. What I'm trying to get at.
Basically, it gets cheaper to provide the same amount of data as time goes on.
Yeah, which is what I'm saying, that everyone's moving away from unlimited data, but, you know, that phone's getting more powerful, people using more data. It goes both ways. They can provide more data.
I know. Well, here's what it is. It's a combination of looking at the Nielsen reports, which say blah percent of web traffic is video, expected to be blah percent by, what was it, 2015 or 2020? I think it's like some ridiculous amount of data, and they're all having panic attacks. That's thing one. And whether they do this or not, that's going to happen. The difference is going to be whether we're all bankrupt. Thing two is Verizon has a 4G network to build. AT&T has a 4G network to build. All of them would like to start laying 50-bit, megabit connections in places they don't have them, moving towards last mile everywhere. Basically, this is, well, instead of us invest our cash reserves in updating our network, let's figure out how to get all these suckers to pay for it, is the other aspect of that. Good business. I think it might backfire on them, because at the end of the day, people only have so much money. You know, there's that, I'll pay the $20 to $50 bill, no problem, but when my $20 to $50 bill starts becoming $20 to $50 plus $10 overage, plus $20 overage, plus $50 overage, plus $100 overage, I start looking at this as a bill I don't need at all. You know, this is one of the reasons, if anybody remembers what the phone company was like 20 years ago, 20 years ago, you couldn't have sold a VoIP connection to anybody because phone overage fees were not, oh dear God, ridiculous. As they started nickel and diming for everything and charging by the minute and by the second and by the, you know, so I was like, you know what, I just don't want to screw with it. You know, Vonage is starting to look better and better and better. You know, one bill, no thinking. I like that. You know, it's, the more they do this, the better that looks.
What do you think that, you know, you talk about the building the infrastructure, that being their reason for doing this. Do you think that there's a sliver of a chance that they'll go back to unlimited after they have the infrastructure?
If they can get away with it, why would they?
Not at all.
Which is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's like, basically they'll go through a period where they'll be breaking even to making a little bit of profit, and as soon as they get the infrastructure made out, they'll be just like a cable company who's able to convince the local legislator that they're a fledgling network and needs to keep all competition out so that they can survive. But once they get that nice, shiny new infrastructure built, they don't maintain it, and they just let it decay and fall apart over 5 to 10 years, and just kind of sit back and go, well, we're not spending any money and collecting obscene profits. You know, and then what happens is they let the network completely fall apart over the course of a decade, and then, you know, the legislator's like, well, wait a minute, we gave you a monopoly so that you could actually more cost effectively afford to maintain the network. Not only are you not maintaining it, but you're charging every single customer to pay for work that's already done every single time that was what the cable company here was doing. The legislator changed things about 18 months ago to basically go, no, you don't have monopoly anymore, we're sick of this. Because literally this is what the cable company here would do. If the cable guy came to your house and your house was wired for 7 connections, they would go, okay, at $39 a connection for the other 4 connections over the 3 connections included in your plan, you have to pay me $160 roughly for me to sit here and do nothing. Or I can take my crimpers out and start cutting everything. Was literally the way they did business. And that's what I see, you know, AT&T, Verizon, all of them. They'll get that infrastructure built, but the price will not come back down until competition is restored, which is going to be hard to do when anybody who's trying to compete with them is using this valuable gold-plated commodity of data usage.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that somehow, another network is able to come up and kick them in their pants.
The blinding hope was Light Squared, but Light Squared's having a problem. There's some legislative regulation that may kill Light Squared. So, that basically the check is about to be completely removed.
I've been hearing, actually, I was reading this article about this guy who went to Congress and talked about how having, data capped would help stop piracy and all that.
Oh, bullshit.
I know, but people actually in the topics were, talking about how it wouldn't, because they live in a country where data is legally capped everywhere. And I actually didn't know that other countries had that.
We've been living in this, when we start complaining about these data caps, people in Europe and Australia and parts of Canada look at us like, y'all are touched in the head. My cap's 20 gig. 150? You're rich. They have no sympathy for us.
People over there, and the comments said that, what they did is they actually would mail USBs, because that actually would end up being cheaper than just streaming a movie. It would kill something like Netflix or something like that.
Yeah, no, all it does is kill competition. It doesn't kill piracy, illegal acts. There's a will, there's a way. It actually kills legal alternatives. It basically, right now, it's very, now that's going to change in May, but right now, it's very cost effective to consider doing something like buying a Roku box and just going, you know what, I'm going to buy a Roku box with Netflix, Hulu Plus, and, some of the premium things like ESPN and yada yada, because that's what I care about. I have all the stuff I care about for a third the price I'd get it from Uverse. But when you put this cap on that says I can't use it, well, then Uverse suddenly looks more costly. And that's that at the end of the day, it's like, well, that's our competition, and they need this pipe, so let's kill it.
Yeah, and that's exactly, what's happening. The people who are in power right now, who do have the people to talk to, the legislature and stuff like that, are not the people who would be using this new technology and making it evolve, because it really could be so much cheaper, and there's no reason to have these data caps, because, computers are still moving forward, they're still doubling every 18 months and even more, that we don't, having caps on stuff is really lethal to...
It's rent control. When they did rent control in New York, the end result was people who owned buildings that it cost them 2, 3, 8 times what they were legally allowed to charge for rent to maintain it. Just suddenly started becoming arsonists. Whole sections of New York were just being burnt down. They decided maybe we should get rid of rent control. Now the obvious counter argument here when it comes to data caps like this is it is their network. So they paid for it, they can do whatever they want for it. However, there's a precedent in the US that goes 180 against that logic, and that's the phone. Initially, when the telephone first came out, every single phone company was having to build their own phone poles, their own phone network. So you were winding up with things like on one side of the road you had phone company A, on the other side of the road phone company B, and literally each one of them had to have their own network. This was completely and totally counterproductive to efficiently building a nationwide phone network for the United States. So they decided, okay, here's what we're going to do. One network. All of y'all are going to share it. Now that wound up creating Ma Bell, and they decided, okay, one network, and anybody can get access to it regardless of who built it, but you have to reimburse the person who built it to resell it. It's like, and then we started having a lot of phone company competition. It took 20 years to evolve, but now, there's phone company A, B, C, D, which has led to competition and better prices. And that's what's starting to happen with internet things. You know, different companies are taking different sides. And the reality is, if we put these caps and enforce this, you're going to force every single thing to build their own internet infrastructure access structure nationwide. We don't need 4 or 5 of those. We need one with some redundancy.
I know, and the problem it isn't the company setting the price. That is their choice. It's the fact that it's so hard for a new company because of the reasons that these infrastructure, is owned by these big companies.
Oh, well, and these are, let's be fair, these are multi-billion, in some cases multi-trillion-dollar infrastructures. They're not cheap by any score of the imagination.
But it's that it's so hard for another company to try to give them competition.
Mm-hmm.
Is that because cities who already have the infrastructure from Verizon and Sprint will say, no, we don't want you to build any more towers. We don't want you to dirty up the skies, and they can't go in.
Well, no, I'd say that's the thing. If they could all share, we wouldn't need 18 bajillion towers. We just need a nationwide set of towers.
It allows them to use, their monopoly where you have to, use it to stop, people coming in and saying, it really doesn't cost that much to give people 200 gigabytes a month. I think that I'm going to use my money and go to a venture capitalist and start a new company and give them 20 times as much because I could still make a bunch of money doing that. They're going to have a really hard time doing that with, even though they have the money to build the infrastructure, they are going to be stopped from doing that.
Yep.
That's the problem I have.
Oh, no, it's good business. It's leveraging your position to enforce monopolistic practices, kind of force people to have to come to you. That's good business. That is good business every day of the week. If you can't, beat them, kill them, whatever. It's like, I read that somewhere. Like there was somebody who was talking about it that way. I'm like, it's like, yeah. But, yeah. And I'm not sure there. Unfortunately, I only see 2 solutions to this. Good competition, and good competition is going to require some really wealthy people basically investing and doing exactly what you're talking about. And the alternative, I'm not sure I find favorable. And the alternative is do what you did with the phone network, which is regulate it. Which means there's going to be a tax on everything that has an internet connection, which also means potentially one day down the road we're going to be living in a world where you can't say fuck on the internet. Which is not the world I want to live in. One of the real appeals to doing broadcast over the internet is you're not censored. It's your discretion what you do. Now, of course, if you get too obscene and piss off all your core audience, they're all going to go somewhere else. But if you wanted to, you could say all 7 of George Carlin's dirty little words. In text and in speech and in every way you can imagine. Some parental software might wind up blocking you, but that's a different matter altogether.
And that's true. And there are people who are, wealthy enough and can, somebody could pitch this good idea.
You know what? Bill Gates' mission statement is to get rid of all his money before he dies. I think this should be his charity project to the United States. A nationwide optical network, unmetered access. He can get rid of those billions of dollars right then and there and help people. Hell, go for a planet-wide one. Why not, I don't think he has that much money, but...
Yeah, especially a new one. But, as far as infrastructure goes, the possibilities of it, I heard something a few years ago about this new cable, this new technology cable that was invented that was able to pretty much have enough data that it could transfer internet to, half of China.
You happen to remember the name of it?
On the internet, but it's that, there's this technology does exist that where we have plenty of infrastructure for it.
Well, unless that's copper, telecoms are disencouraged from investing in it. because the way the regulation exists right now, if they lay copper, they own it. If they're laying another technology, they don't. So they're discouraged actually from making optical networks and things like that. They're encouraged to use copper.
Jordan, you haven't said anything on it, so.
I don't know. I was sort of stuck back on the idea of the whole competition. Around here, most providers are not allowed to compete. The cell phone providers can, but phone providers and cable providers, I don't believe they're allowed to compete. Allowed to what?
Yeah, compete. But that was how here was recently. They just changed it. Just. And like everybody's on this rush now to build out into each other's territories.
Wait, what are you talking? Allowed to what?
Well, we have one cable provider where I live, and we are not allowed to. I guess technically, if another one were to come into the area, we could go to them, but I don't think they allow other ones to move in.
Yeah, no, and that was how it was here. And how's your service out of them?
Actually, the service is okay. I don't want to say it's great, but up until about a year ago, they offered up to 4 megabits or 8 megabits per second download. 1 year ago, they upped it to 20 megabits. But they don't offer any sort of bandwidth cap. But if they decided to one day, we wouldn't have any option.
Yeah. And
I don't know. I actually, of course, it's because where I live, but I have quite a few providers.
See, well, when I came out here, I came from a megalopolis where I had like, oh, well, who do you want to get your what from? Well, here's the list. And as a result, you know, like, I could get what I get here for $50 to $75 a month for 10. And it's night and day difference due to the lack of choice. It's like, and you know, I bitch about my cable company all the time because they do things like, you know, just remotely wipe the DVR that they're charging $10 a month for. But if you don't get that, your cable bill's $20 more a month. So, you know, the internet is why not oh dear God priced. It's the most expensive internet I've ever bought, and incidentally enough, it's slower than some internets I've bought, and it does periodically go out for no other reason than I coughed wrong, and little things like that. But you know, they had a monopoly for a decade, so it's, you know, it's since they changed the deregulation, that they know the competition's coming, you know, I see an advertisement on them every 5 minutes that says, we are #1 in customer service. Never mind the fact that the year we were #1, we were the only option, but we are #1. And when you call them up a bit, hey, you fucked something up again. The answer isn't, well, sir, we can be there next week between the hours of 12 and 8. Can you be home? The answer is, well, okay, sir, I'm going to give you a credit for the time that we fucked up, and we'll send somebody over, but let me see if I can fix it remotely. Like, the whole demeanor of actually wanting to keep you has 180. That's, you know, there's a reason they've actually given us some free stuff now for all the fuck-ups. They wouldn't have done that before.
Which is why competition is so great.
Yeah. But occasionally, you do get a company that, in spite of competition, is just an ethical company. They're rare. But there are, you know, I know it's a horrible world and it is dog eat dog world, but there are some honest businessmen. There are some companies that are just out there to, this is the service we can provide, this is as good as we can provide it, and we're going to do that regardless. There are a few exceptions to the rule, but it's not generally the way it works. You know, I've met people that, you know, it's like that person that always does the right thing whether anybody's watching or not. Everybody knows that one friend that's like that. We also know most humans aren't that way. We're all that way, right?
Of course.
We never do anything wrong when nobody's looking, right?